Before this video starts, I just want to give a massive shout out to all my channel members. If you want to receive a shout out, then become a channel member today and you'll be shown on screen like all these other channel members here. Anyways, enjoy the video. In version 14.7, we get to see the return of the Street Fighter collab, and along with it comes some brand new units. One of these units is a variant of Pizza Cat, Zangief Cat. In this video, I want to go over what this unit does, how well he does as a unique unit, and how well he compares to Pizza. The footage in this video is of a level 50 Zangief. The best place to start with Zangief Cat is to look at his stats. At level 30, he sports a rather impressive 43,350 HP and deals a solid 20,400 damage. They sport massive damage against floating, a 10% chance to deliver a savage blow, and is slow immune. They also sport 260 range, 6 speed, 2 knockbacks, a cooldown of 25.2 seconds, and a cost of 1,125. There are two ways to look at this unit. One being using him generally in the way that you would use Pizza, and the other is being his floating specialty. Zangief is able to perform extremely well as a generalist mid-ranger in a similar way to Pizza, as both sport extremely solid damage and have enough bulk to tank hits. In fact, Zangief has more general stats than even a talented Pizza at the same level. However, Zangief trades reposition ability with more endurance, as he has way less chances to be able to reposition compared to Pizza Cat due to only having 2 knockbacks compared to Pizza's 4. Zangief also has a much longer backswing, lasting almost 5 seconds compared to Pizza's 3.5 second backswing. This could cause him to lag behind the front lines more often than Pizza, since he isn't any faster and could possibly miss out on potential damage. However, this longer backswing can be a slight positive to his survivability, as staying in the back longer can mean avoiding unnecessary damage. Zangief also has 10 less range than Pizza, though the only matchup this matters generally with is against Arost, as now Zangief shares the same range. The change in endurance does mean that Zangief can still get a hit off, but won't be able to pile on long-term damage nearly as well as Pizza. There is one ability that makes him distinct from Pizza, and this is their Savage Blow. While this doesn't occur often, with only a 10% chance to activate, you will probably at least see it once or twice per battle. Being able to triple your damage against any enemy can make a huge dent into several enemies' health pools. At level 30, a Savage Blow hit is able to deal an impressive 61,000 damage. Again, this doesn't occur often, but when it does, it can give you massive leverage in a battle. Another spot that Zangief can make himself distinct is his slow immunity. This immunity gives him a bit more flexibility in stages that contain enemies with a potent slow. The two best examples are against Queen Bee and Dabu. For Queen Bee, Zangief has enough endurance to tank a bee hit and just make it into her blind spot, and higher level Zangiefs have no issues at all getting into the blind spot. Dabu has a rather long slow of 10 seconds, so being able to tank a hit and bypass the slow still allows him to deal solid damage to the supports and Dabu himself. However, it should be noted that Zangief's 1,125 cost makes him unusable in Prisoner's Progress, as the restriction there is 1,200 or more cost. In short, wherever Pizza is viable as a generalist attacker, Zangief will work just as well in 95% of situations. Seeing as they are a Pizza clone, however, they also have a specialized use. This is against floating enemies. At level 30, Zangief deals 81,000 damage against them. This amount of damage can easily chunk a ton of floating enemies. However, unlike black enemies, where an absolute majority of them are melee enemies, floating has a ton of enemies that have a higher range stat, such as the Face and Muth variants. This does not mean that Zangief is a bad anti-floating at all. In fact, against these higher range variants, Zangief still has more than enough endurance to land a solid hit against them if given the chance. Where Zangief shines the best is against Bun Bun variants. Just like Cameraman, whose numbers could quickly pile on damage against Bun Bun, Zangief has the raw stats to chunk these Bun Bun variants in a single hit. There is another floating unit that's able to handle Bun Bun variants well, this being Fishman. However, Zangief's standing range and area attack are more than enough to be an excellent partner to Fishman, as the two of them cover each other's weaknesses, and both just have amazing stats against floating enemies. Also, Zangief's Savage Blow, which if it lands on a floating enemy, allows him to deal an absurd amount of damage. At level 30 alone, a Savage Blow hit against floating enemies deals 244,000 damage, and at level 50 hits nearly 400,000 damage. Other notable floating enemies that Zangief excels in dealing with are against Brawlo swarms. Cameraman is good at handling them, though buff Brawlos will tend to survive a Cameraman hit. Zangief is able to bypass this thanks to his high raw damage. Most of the floating cyclones also get chunked by Zangief. This gives him uses in both early game and late game encounters with Cyclone enemies, especially the likes of Mini White Cyclone. Now, seeing as Pizza has been mentioned a lot in comparison to Zangief, how do these two actually compare? As stated before, Zangief gains more in raw stats, but the increased backswing does cause him to have slightly less DPS. The knockback count on Zangief does make him have less reposition ability. The range difference is negligible enough to where it only really matters in a single matchup. Zangief's Savage Blow also gives him a way to deal a gigantic amount of burst damage. Now, if we throw in Pizza's talents into the mix, Zangief still wins in terms of raw stats, but not nearly as much as before. In terms of DPS, Pizza has way more DPS at nearly 7,500 DPS. Pizza also now gains a form of burst damage that activates more often in the form of his wave at 30%. In the end, however, Zangief is still a Pizza clone and shares many of the same weaknesses and strengths. So, how good is Zangief Cat? Zangief Cat generally works as a secondary Pizza Cat, offering a ton of the same value in terms of being a generalist attacker. Savage Blow is a nice way for him to deliver some amazing burst damage. Their usage against floating enemies is also extremely strong, as being able to chunk floating enemies, even those that have a much higher range if given the chance, can easily sway a battle in your favor. With all that said, I want to thank you for watching this analysis of Zangief Cat. If you thought this insight was interesting, then be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy Battle Cat's content, and comment down below your thoughts on them. I'd love to hear what you all think. Also, shout out to the following channel members: Dr. Deadly, Gamet, Ian Dean, Ninja Stars, Virus Opero, Just a Shark, Potato King, Rose Cat the Best, Physical Gaming, Atsushi, King Wolf, Regaming, Janek Altenberg, Glamorous, Barely Grover, Jade Rabbit, and Mustafa for being silver members or higher. If you want to receive a shout out like these channel members here, then become a silver member or higher today. Becoming a channel member supports what I do in a way that helps keep the lights on and allows me to continue making content for all of you to watch. Anyways, I hope you have a wonderful day.